everyone, my name is Reggie and welcome to my channel. Today I'm really excited to be sharing with you the series I quit. These are the series I've started but have no intentions of completing. It goes without saying, but I'm gonna say anyways. This is in no way offense to you. If this is your favorite series is on this list, do not take offense, do not worry about it. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. These are just mine. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you should definitely do that. Hit that notification bell as well. These are in no particular order, but first up we have The Edge of Everything by Jeff Giles. This is a series that's sci-fi and paranormal and contemporary at the same time. It has a lot of aspects to it, and it's romance, and I think you all know that I'm not necessarily a huge fan of super heavy romance books. I like a good romance in a book, but if it's cheesy or not well done, I will not like it, and this was just that for me. The romance was awful, the book was predictable, and I just wasn't a fan. You will hear me say the word predictable in this video a lot. Please know, while books may be boring or predictable to me, and that's things on this list, a slow pacing book or a book that is predictable isn't necessarily a make it or break it move for me. I have enjoyed books that I found the ending predictable or the twist predictable if they had other things going for them, and I've really loved a lot of slow-paced books because I love the characters or another aspect of the story. But if I didn't like another aspect of the story, those things will usually stick out like sore thumbs to me. Next up we have Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Mascolka. They're the first two books in the series, and I just don't think it's for me. It's a historical fiction about a girl who's into cadavers and mysteries. While everyone who reads this book seem to claim she is a feminist, I don't buy it. I think she participates in a lot of girl hate and girl shaming, and I'm not for that life. It's one of the biggest tropes I dislike in books. Next up we have The Matched series by Ali Condi. This was the first book I ever DNF'd was in the series. I read the first one, DNF'd the second one. I read like 200 pages, maybe 150, I don't know, and like the same thing had just happened over and over and over again. Next up we have The Selection series by Kira Cass. I have actually completed the original trilogy, that is The Selection trilogy, but this also has two spin-off books in the series, and I have not completed those, and I have no desire to, because I didn't even really like the Selection series that much. In a very similar vein to the Selection series, we have the Shatter Me series by Tahereh Mafi. I read the original trilogy, didn't necessarily love it, will not be continuing on with the new books that have been published after that trilogy concluded. We also have the Frostblood Saga. I don't remember who this is by, but this was an e-arc I was sent, and I just DNF'd it, didn't enjoy it, so if I couldn't get through the first book, definitely can't get through the rest of the series. We also have the Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. This is a contemporary series set in summer, and it's again very, very, very heavy on the romance, and I thought the romance was cheesy and juvenile, and I say juvenile in not a negative way, just like younger side of YA. So I think it's probably just a fine series, and it just didn't click with me. But because of that, I won't be continuing on with the series. I think I read the first or second book in the series. I can't remember if I read one or two in the series, but I won't be continuing on either way. Next up we have Rebel Belle by Rachel Hawkins. I enjoyed this first book enough, but I didn't love it. I have no desire to continue on with it. I found it very predictable. I didn't really consider it boring. I enjoyed my time reading it enough, like I said, but I would never really continue on. I don't really care enough about the characters or the story or where it's headed to continue on. Next up I have the Starbound Trilogy by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This is a sci-fi story set in space, Romeo and Juliet retelling of sorts. Wasn't really a fan, not continuing on. Actually kind of hated this book. It was the first audiobook I ever read that was a fiction book. Up until reading this book, the only audiobooks I had listened to were nonfiction, so it's possible that the audiobook did play a role in my distaste of this book, but again, I found it predictable and not that interesting, so I can't say that that's necessarily the audiobook's fault. It might have played a contributing factor, but I don't think that's the only reason. I did not like it, and I will definitely not be continuing on. Next up we have the Gemma Doyle trilogy by Libba Bray. I was really disappointed to not enjoy the first book in the series, but I didn't. This is a historical fiction, and it was very formative in its time. It did a lot to open doors. I think for today's readers it's damaging. I appreciate what it did, opening doors for LGBTQIA stories and different narratives, but I think it had a lot of fat shaming, girl hate, again, tropes I hate. Next up I have the Miss Peregrines Home for Peculiar Children series by Ransom Riggs. I found this book to be the epitome of a boring book. I almost DNF'd it and I didn't. I finished it because I wanted to watch the movie, and I kind of wish that I would have DNF'd it, honestly, because the movie was better and the movie was really bad still. Again, personal opinion. I know this is the one that's gonna like shake people to the core, that and like the Shatter Me series, which is sad because those two are a couple, but you know, I love them as people. Just didn't love those books. Next up we have the Wrath and the Dawn duology. This is by Renee Audier, and I really did not like this book. I found it predictable, didn't find the romance to be enjoyable. If you've read the story or know the story that this is based on, because this is a retelling, then nothing will come to you as a surprise except for the romance, because like it's not believable. It's hard to buy. I can't see it working, and I'm not a fan of this. The writing is fine. I know people like gush about it or say it's over the top. I didn't find either of those to be the case. It didn't really strike me. We also have the A Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas. For the first 2 books in the series, I continued on after I hated the first book because I was told the second one was so much better and everyone loved it, and the second one was just as bad. Okay, so the first one was worse, but the second one was still really bad. Like, y'all know Rice Sand is still an awful love interest, right? Okay, so that's the thing in this video I'm gonna get the most hate for. I'm sorry. He is still not a great love interest and still abusive. And that's an unhealthy relationship still. Okay, moving on. Next up we have the Knife of Never Letting Go series by Patrick Ness. This is another one that might be surprising to some people. I just really didn't like this first book, and I know there's a lot of character growth and development and things change and it probably gets better, but I don't really care. I found the main character in this to be kind of misogynistic, and I get that that's kind of the world he was born into and he grows and changes and blah blah blah, but like I didn't enjoy reading that and I don't want to continue on. That's it. Oh, I do have one more. I think we're gonna put Twilight on this list. Technically, I also have this on my completed series. I've read the 4 books in the Twilight Saga, but I have not read Life and Death Twilight Reimagined. It's at the end of this list because I kind of count that. I kind of don't, because it's like not a new book, but I won't be reading it. But also I didn't read the novella in that series, the Bree Tanner, whatever, but I also count that as just a novella, so anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm not reading any more books in the series, so it's gonna go on this list kind of. That is all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Also comment down below and let me know if I should give any of these series a shot, a second chance. Honestly, probably won't, but there's a few of them that you could probably convince me to try again, so go ahead and try. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.